Right to a channel of light fluid. It's time for another chapter of our Seeker's Saga, and this time we are going into chapter 6. We left it on something of a cliffhanger last time, so let's see what's going to happen this time. Knight, you return. We must hurry and... Carly stated in the sheer tone moments before the streets were overrun. The air among the streets of Haven was stiff with tension. The few bystanders nearby were pushed aside by royal guards who quickly surrounded us. My heart was beating as a pang of anxiety riddled my chest. Did I do something wrong? What? But my anxiety was only partially subdued with confusion when I realized the sharp, penetrating eyes of the guards were not set on me. Carly, who barely just approached, was halted in stride by a guard pulling his blade and pointing it towards the hawk. A look of shock on his face mimicked mine. When the second guard spoke, I knew it was serious. Carly of the Council, you are wanted for the murder of King Vesna. What? No, how? Carly stepped back in horror. The guard, leaving no room for error, steps up to him. Carly raises his hands, fleeting glances between me and the others. His eyes filled with genuine shock, something I've never seen upon his face. You'll be held for trial at once. You'll face death if you resist. I did not kill him. This is absurd. Someone is making a mistake. I demand your explanation at once. You make no such demands, murderer. You will hear of your own filth in court. Carly shook his head. With each step he took back, the guard took two more. The bystanders across the street spat in disgust, shouting words of hate with raised fists toward Carly. I was bewildered, shook, partly from disorientation among the streets, but from the Seeker's own words I recall. It could not have been Carly, could it? But Votos. Someone was lying. The only thing I could think was how to mitigate the situation for now. Surely there was an answer to this all. Listen to them, Carly. They'll explain it all at the trial. No, it could be fabricated. He glanced between all the guards, slowly encircling him, his back now pressed up against the stone wall. It's a mistake. I did not kill him. Why would I kill my only friend? His word became hastened. His eyes widened. I'll head to the Queen this instant. No, you will not. Within arm's length, the guard reaches out for Carly's wrist to hold him back. In fear, Carly abruptly pushes back, trying to flee between the body of guards. The hawk was hardly a match to the guards. He throws the bird back against the wall, thrusting his sword through his abdomen. Carly gasped, keeling over the blade before collapsing to the cold stones below. For Vesna, for Queen Lavera, filth. The fox spits upon the ground. I stood in shock. I could not fathom, I could not process. The colour of his eyes began to fade, his feathers slowly stiffening before me. Take this body to the castle. Lavera needs to know the outcome. I watched as two others each grab one of Carly's wrists and drag his body through Haven. I do not know for how long I stood, for Amber softly nudged me. Most likely longer than what would be considered okay. Let's head to the Queen. Right. I saw ahead where Mayu stood solemnly by the castle gates. When did you... Not but a few hours ago. So you heard? I saw for myself. She motions with paw towards the open door to the throne hall. As I approach it, I see Kora exiting abruptly. Endless tears flow down her cheeks. Behind her, a guard closes the doors. I could hear the shouts of the Queen in the midst of the time it takes to close the dense wooden doors. I've ignored this for too long. I can't believe any of it. Everyone disappoints me. They'll accept what I offer, or I will end. I could not tell who she spoke of. I could only guess it'd be either the Culvens or Damaskians. Kora, amidst her shock and tears, ran to Soma, who consoled her in a hug. None of this felt believable. Kali, killed for the assassination of the king? He was there during the attack on us, and Alakar too. I tried to remember exactly how he acted then, but it's hard among all the events that have happened. We stood quietly outside the castle halls. I wanted to ask someone, anyone, about what was happening. I already knew they were either as shocked as me or distraught with grief. The silence prolonged with only the occasional sob from Kora before she finally spoke. I need to leave. What do you mean? I need you to take me to the Fae. I must speak with the World Tree. Kora wipes the wetness off her face and cheeks. It is the lung that breathes air between Othir and Aswin. It is the clearest I'll become, the closest I'll be. You need to say no more, Kora. Soma gives a comforting squeeze to Kora's shoulder before turning to us. What about the Queen? She will know. She won't like it, but no one is happy right now. Soma glances towards a nearby guard, giving him a nod for signal. The other guard returns the notion for heading towards the castle. No harm comes to Kora. I'll make sure of it with my life. And so we leave then? The road is the best companion to any knight. It will soothe Kora so. Forest of Hay? The road will clear many of minds, I wager. Let us head for the World Tree. With paw held up to block the sun from his eyes, Soma stands alert and gazing hesitantly into the distant trees. Is there a problem? I just have a bad feeling about going close to the Damascus border at a time like this. We made it this far. Soma scratches the bottom of his muzzle warily. I wish to speak with Aswin. I need to... Like in Asera, the World Tree roots span most of Malenthia. If it's safer, we could head to Raven's Hollow. They have a shrine with the roots there, to your Aswin's voice all the same. I do remember those. They're one and the same, but... I understand where you're coming from, Kora, but just one question. Have my hunches ever let us down? Oh, never. Kora speaks softly. Ravens are close. Safer is better for all of us, and I'm sure your mother is worried sick. She may even demote me if she knew we took you close to Damaskia. I guess you're right. I wouldn't want that either. Where the roots touch, you can still speak with Aswin. Okay, let us head for Raven's Hollow then. Makes sense. We're staying away from the border. I know I kind of trust Soma on this. The road to Raven's Hollow turned muddy as we passed the edges of a swamp to the south. The mud slung to the underside of my leggings and flicked with every step. It was thick for only a mile or so, before I arrived into the town, or encampment rather, of the Ravens. I never put too much thought to their place beforehand. Ahead, a fortified wooden structure sat straight down the road, a good ways off still. Yet the settlement itself began all around with tents and people going about their day. The outskirts of the encampment accommodated a mix of stables for horses and blacksmiths hammering away at the metal they worked on. The sounds of the ringing echoing through the entire camp as we walked. Soon the metal on metal was drowned out by the crowd of mercenaries mixed with their families and kids around about smaller cabins and tents. The guard perching high on the outer wall of the structure yelled down from the gates. It felt an odd mix of a town and an outpost. Name who approaches Raven's Hollow. I'm with Kora of Havenhearth and her brigade. Oh, Kora and the Lunar Knights? The creature atop the wall turns away to someone unnoticeable from view. Open the gate. The interior of the structure is more of the same, with groups of people about. Some look like soldiers and mercenaries, whether servants or workmen hauling goods. To the side were creatures keeping in practice their swordplay and archery, almost making me feel as if I've entered a military encampment. At the edge of the courtyard stood two structures and a stable. The largest structure held a balcony from which I could see Stenmere, even from this distance. His gaze was on us. That was all I knew for sure. Reaching the centre of the yard, Saku approached alongside his guards from the wall. What brings the soon-to-be secret knight alongside her? Saku, I'm here to visit the walled route in the hallowed sanctuary. Oh, I see. You have not been this way in some time. I've heard all that has happened in Havenhearth, as of late. You have my deepest sympathy, Kora. Kora bows gently in the bird's direction. Let me not keep you then. I can have Drake, my personal guard, lead you to the sanctuary. Thank you, but that is quite all right. I prefer to speak to Aswin alone right now. Oh, of course. Yes, as you may. Saku nods to Kora as she slowly leaves the sanctuary. Stenmere and Jade. They'd like a word when you're ready. For? I'm not sure, but they asked for the knight from Melenthia as well. Okay. The crow turns to me, his eyebrows raised. If you are currently free, I imagine now is the best of times. It has been long, human, yet I'd say not long enough. You look tense. Do not worry. We were not expecting you. But in a report we plan to make and send by Ryder to Havenhearth, we might as well deliver these words to your brigade directly. Words and thoughts for Queen Lefera. Soma stands with his arms crossed beside me, but a nod to Jade. I'll keep it brief. As you know, due to the deal that was struck in the Forest of Fae, Ivro Melistard stationed precisely 30 men on the outskirts of Raven's Hollow. You may have seen some of their tents on your way inside. We wish to report to Queen Lefera that not only has the Damascan border activity diminished almost entirely, but they have been a true help to bandits of both local and Damascan origin. Although we are neutral to both parties, we know this news may shed comfort to a distressed crown. You can take the info however you wish in regards to the late Alikar. How is this related to Alikar? Some would draw conclusions. I say these were accusations of Damascia, to answer your question, that is. We know the disputes and worries behind Alikar's murder. Right, it is just that, to our strategists, if one were to plan such attacks, would conjoin the event alongside increased activity. not decreased. From our hearts, we hope it eases Lavera, rather than to hear it has gotten worse. In other words, from our eyes, we'd like to think the Maskiers have no faults, if that helps. But again, take it as how you wish, for we know the opinions and choices not on the Ravens to conclude. Thank you for the information. You are welcome, Luna Knight. She nods. Feel free to stay however long is needed. Company is always nice to have in our little abode. Appreciated, although we most likely won't be staying long. The three leaders of the Ravens bow as we exited their quarters. I listened to the jested shouts of the mercenaries and the clang of their swords in training, waiting for Kora's short return. I noticed as one feline sprang with feet against dirt, dodging his friend who countered with shouts of frustration. The cat chuckled with his head rolled back, while pouncing with blade against shield. On the back of his armour I briefly noticed the crossed spear insignia of Damaskia. They seemed to get along well, at least a few of them. Ah, knights. Their joy and fascination when it comes to battle. I turned to see Kora standing behind me, the gate to the hillside clasping shut. I did not realise earlier in Haven, but her facial features represented a near-perfect recovery from the days before they had wrecked her health. But although the colour was back in her cheeks, her face was as distraught as the moment we left Haven. Are you okay? I would not say I'm better, to say the least. While the words of Aswin came through the divine, that was not what worried me, no. Seeker Vodos. He has fallen. Slumber has taken him to coma. Oh no. My voice trails off, hit with unexpected news. We saw it coming, yet it feels so swift. With eyes glistening from premature tears, Kora wipes them away. She tries to smile to mask herself for speaking again. I guess it means my time is near to be Seeker. I will be able to sing again like I used to. But I hope I can do what is best for everyone. I'm lost in thought, trying to think of a way to console Kora or divert from the news of Vodos. Before I can find the right words, Kora does so herself. I wanted to ask, for peace of mind, hopefully. What bothers you, Geraint, if anything? You have settled me this entire time. In Haven, on the road, here. What do you mean? I'm just worried if anything plagues your mind, since you have been so quiet. Instantly my mind floods back to what the Seeker had told me in his own words, that he was responsible for her father's death. I wished to express how lost I felt, how confused I imagined Kora would be if I told her it all, or if she'd understand me for keeping it a secret. If it was even a truth, after all, I do not know who to trust. I wonder now if I should tell her what I know, or, in the same vein he did when he was awake, if the Seeker had a means to tell Kora even comatose. I was unsure. I think we should wait for the Seeker to tell her first. That could affect how things go, their relationship. And I think it's one of those things you should hear it from that person, not from someone else. We'll see. Hopefully it works out. I'm not sure how or if the Seeker could still tell Kora. I think it better let him have the chance first. No, I don't think anything bothers me. I just figured you need the time to yourself to grieve. I shake my head and tell her there's nothing to worry about. She nods slowly with scared, tired eyes. I hope that the Seeker will do her justice and that she would understand me. For now, she needed rest. Oh, one last thing, Geraint. The Divine wished to speak with you. It seemed just as urgent. Please forgive me, as I must take my leave. She bows softly before shuffling off with a sniffle. A guard at the hallowed sanctuary opens the gates I approach. Even in the ease he took to shut it behind me, it still clasps with the metal ring that echoes down the stoned hallway. The stone that built this underground keep appeared cracked and withered. Any edges of the bricks that protruded from the masonry and clay was rounded with time. The only sharp edges to be seen were fresh chips in the stone, perhaps an occasional accidental clip of armour or cargo hauled through the tunnel. The long hallway stretched, intermittently broken up only by small rows of stairwells, where I was led to a soft bend to the path. No other outlets, rooms or hallways lead elsewhere, yet. Near the end, or what I assumed was such, the hallway opened to a much more extensive room. Fresh torches lit the sides of pillars that stretched from floor to ceiling high above. The same worn bricks lined less of the space here, while the rest was covered in natural cavern walls and rock patterns. It felt much like I was in a Sarah again. The feeling came not just from the cavern walls, but primarily the singular pillar before the centre of the room. It stood all the same as the others, yet wrapped in a thick root that encircled the entire length, breaking up from the ground below. Candles and gems lined bowls around the centre, and even with the flickering that encircled it, the wood of the roots barely reflected the dim brown colour to its bark. In the other corner, an array of metal equipment and shelving sat nailed to a table. It looked to be a workstation of sorts, but of what? Could not quite tell. Bottles and flasks of all sizes spread about the table. Most of them laid empty except for the few that sat within the metal rings and latches of the equipment, filled with strange colours of red and blue liquids. I gazed more around the room, hesitating in my approach. Several stone benches lined the other end, with a table and more candles. All of them freshly lit, with the old exhausted ones nudged together in the corner, unlit and ready to be taken away. Aside from the strange workbench, I felt there's no other real purpose for the sanctuary other than the roots themselves. Only a single other door met the other end of the room, latched close. I felt an urge wash over me like I was being observed, yet the room lay empty. I felt called to in the same manner as if the dual divine stood directly before me. I walked to the roots, closing my eyes and pressing my palms to the warm, gritty wood. The familiar sense of the stinging pricks at my palms. The voice calls to me. Familiar now as I've heard it before, not long ago either. I wonder what has changed and needed me now. Geraint, I sense you know of Saga. I wish in turn to tell you a story, if you'd listen. Sure. Feeling as though I had little choice in the matter either way, I agreed. Since the beginning of Malenthir and Damaskia, all creature kind knows the way of life, and most surely the way of death. What they see in death, the dust and sands they become, is a way of life, but it is not how it was supposed to be. Before even Malenthir, there was a land among the Forsaken. These were the days before the valleys turned to sand and the mountains to dust. These were the days when the rivers flowed fresh through the cities of Prosper. In the outskirts of a capital sat 3 elven witches, all sisters. They were as close as a family could be, and shared deep in the knowledge of the arcane and mystical temples they explored. Ahen, Freda, and Shavi were their names. Only by chance they shared with each other the findings of the first moon shard, Oiskia. With it came everything they desired and more. They learned of the finite existence of just two more, and the ideas of godly power soon followed suit. A wish shard helped them find the second shortly after, the spirit stone Vetir. In those same moments of victory and joy came utter betrayal and hatred. Actions and events that will forever change everything as they knew it. Through the flicker of my eyes and the audible senses of her words, I see a creature entering the corner of my eye. He ignores me entirely, with but a glance for heading to the station of flasks in the corner. He leans eye level toward the bottles, mumbling something to himself all the while. The divine's voice continued. The king of the capital stormed the forests, surrounded the sisters and demanded the stones. He had only found out through the third sister, Ayen, who was having a secret affair with the king. In the depths of his private rooms, she told him of everything and all the power he could have. The two witches left were held at sword point. Give up the stones or give up their lives. How would you react in such a way? If there was nothing left and your closest sibling did everything they could against you? In pure disgust, Shavi, the holder of the wishing stone, shouted every manner of hex upon her own sister who betrayed her. And they were answered so through the stone. May your vile infidel of a lover rot before your very eyes, his lands turned to dust, and his disciples all cursed. To dust with everyone you'll ever love, their families and their friends too. You Eustace, you are rotten, a withered, feeble incarnation of Decayum himself. I hope this land never prospers, so no home is safe. I dream of a day that everyone you'll ever love and know hereafter be cursed as their tongues and eyes turn to dust. Let them be blind to never see another soul, and to taste no joys of food again. Nothing but grit and dirt. Let the flesh and blood within their veins dry and crystallize to an agonizing death. You will watch, only to meet the same. Rightly so, the betraying witch gawked in horror to the king, who stood mouth agape, his very veins solidifying, his tongue turned unfathomably dry. He spat sand, unable to say a single dying word. Then his eyes, so he could not see, and not long after, nothing was left but disdainful silk linens dressing a pile of dirt. What followed were weeks of droughts and a sickness that crept across the land. Slower and slower it acted as the hex spread, devouring everyone in the day and in their sleep. Soon, what was once a thriving capital became a ghost town. In a sick twist of fate, it felt as though the Decayum's very grasp was amidst the hex as it molded in time, spreading across the land, affecting everyone, changing as if a mind all its own. The only few untouched were those who trusted the sisters. Those of the country folk who visited them locally for herbs and medicine. But in their trust, their land still torn asunder. The creature in the room cursed to himself, leaning over the table to his precious flask, now lying scattered in pieces among the stone below. For a moment to himself, he went back to his work at the table. It was that of a large white bird, equal in size to Kali. Its beak was incredibly long, with crisp black hues at the tips of his feathers. Many belts latched across his waist, with a shield strapped loosely to his back. I watched him while phasing in and out of my vision with the divine. He paid no heed to my presence. Radia and Shavi gathered a few dozen and created a caravan to the eastern lands of Tavnor, to untouched settlements. Along the way they gathered survivors, those who were so far south or east. They hardly heard of the capital from whence the sisters came. Far to the east mountains were climbed, and the first new valley was founded as Thmaskia. After much too short a time settling new pastures, things could never settle well. The sisters fought a lot. Sometimes Freda heckled Xavi recklessly. Their lives were completely torn upside down, all because of Xavi's anger. She thought it was the end, that they would not survive the king. And so in those moments she truly learned not only the severe power of the shard, but its ungodly consequences. In a final spat between the two, Xavi tore out her own tongue in front of her sister so she could never cause such reckoning again. Part for hate to her long-gone sister, part in hate for Freda who'd never let her be, but mostly all done in hate for herself. While it may protect her for a time, it did not save her family. Their feuds of distaste for what happened soon turned to arguments over new lands and who should keep what. These arguments then spread to the villages. Before long it became a quarrel of hundreds against hundreds. Sides were chosen, and soon unfolded were many battles that later became the Damascene Divide. Freda, who first named her beloved lands, lost. Given her spirit stone gave no physical power, she retreated south to name new lands of Damascia. Lands that were kept, changed to Melanthia. This is how it was founded. Stories say these were from squabbles about land, power, even a creature named Raven. While he was real, none of these were woefully the entirety of such. In time and solitude, you could say both sisters grew feeble and sad. Freda mourned, for she lost now all her sisters. The Spirit Stone was as much a curse as a blessing, as she gave Damascens comfort in learning of the connections they made with Azwin the gods. But they could never quite grasp the constant sorrow Freda endured. She's forever surrounded with the dead, sometimes through uncomfortable times, of which she soon learned the moments everyone would pass, dust would follow. In a sixth twist of the fated curse, it affected everyone now. Those with weaker spirit could become infected. It was not a physical affliction anymore, but one such mental, as their very emotions would wither. Their desires would be stripped away, their loved ones no more than a story to them. This hex would lie dormant within them, festering unbeknownst to anyone around. It had tainted their existence to the point that pleasure, even pain, was a distant memory. It had crumbled their soul until they snapped. And when that happens, they do anything to feel again, resorting even to violence of themselves if that's what it took. No morals, no empathy, nothing can alter their minds to make sense to them.
How do you know all of that?
I know this because I am her. I took my own life on the very hill overlooking my sister's home, in hopes that death would set me free. And in such, I learned the sick fates of the arcane and the spirit shard. To see spirits was the gift, to be bound to Athea for what may be eternity is the consequence. But I am uncertain. All I know is I am free only from mortal shell. In time I watched Xavi die, and her soul pass to Newa, soon with every last person I ever knew in my waking life. So much I have endured, but I have done what I have done. I am now who I am. It took even death for me to fix who I was. And even then I could no longer repair the disputes between Melanthia and Damascia, as they were now children grown with families of their own. I did what I could, but too many knew of the moon shards and the third stone. I did what I could to protect the seekers of the stones and right their path to better my own. But I am not a being of divinity. I am not as celestial as one could wish. Even in death was my purpose still shifting.
You're one of the three sisters.
Yes, I am. Or I was, Freda. I took my followers to the valleys and hills of southern Tavnor. Xavi built the city to become Havenhearth. In her time she developed new traditions to honour those passing to dust, traditions of which became adapted by most of creature kind. So that is how Melenthia was founded, through war. Unfortunately so. War created the lands of Melenthia. I can only hope that war will not also be what takes them. Why'd you tell me all of this? I wanted to tell you everything, because you are something special. After death, I thought I knew all, until you came. An answer may yet lie in the past night. I am not sure what you can make of it yet, but if in even the slightest help it may bring, it would be worth it. We can figure it all together. What happens now? The Seeker has succumbed to his coma. Kora's name day is nigh. She now knows of this, but there is something I must ask of you. The dual divines who lie at the foot of Mount Hari. They were peculiar creatures, but ones I cared deeply for all the same. They were in a sense living beasts, but also mere conjurations of my voice. Wait, were? I worry for them night, as if my own children. I have lost connection with the roots of Mount Hari. I cannot speak with them any longer. This has never happened before, in all my existence. I fear they have already been lost, although I wish it weren't so. I tremble for what it could mean. Please, on your way back to Haven, check on them. I do not know what has happened. The voice fades before me as I'm left within the room where the creature still stands at his table. He sets down a fresh flask filled to the brim with a vibrant red liquid and turns to me. Greetings, knight. I hope I'd caused no stir to your meditations with Aswin. I am Pelican, a cleric of Raven's Hollow. Nice to meet a new face. The same to you. To see the very human before my own eyes. Astonishing. I will leave you to your duties. I have yet to finish my potions before I can pack them. He slings a small pack from his belt and slaps it on the table before flipping open the flap and rummaging through his belongings. With nothing more to say, I leave back for the courtyard. In the centre of the yard, I see Saku saying his goodbyes to Soma and the others. So, leave tomorrow back to Haven, yes? Correct. Although it was nice I got to see some old friends here. We're always walking somewhere. My feet hurt, you know. I take the moment to tell everyone about the request from the Divine. I try to keep it vague. I was asked to swing by the dual Divines, however. I'm sure we can do this after we return. She made it seem rather important that I should do it as soon as possible. We can't just have you go alone either. There's a small path that leads north of Raven's Hollow. Oh, hey, Pelican. I turn to see the bird leaving the sanctuary, bags in tow around his shoulders. It leads through the hills, around the mountain, a thin path up to the Divines. Saku and the others have used it before, and it's quicker than taking the path all around Melenthia. Probably quiet, too, Mayu adds. It should not be but a few hours more than following the path, if that. I turn to Soma, who nods in affirmation. Well, safer than near an abbo, too, Camille mutters softly before going quiet. We'll do so tomorrow then, just as day breaks? Yes, for now Kora and the others can rest, as it won't be long. Let us head to the Dual Divines. It felt as though we stumbled through unfamiliar territory, fumbling through thick trees on a trail never used, hardly noticeable among the forest foliage. The only recognisable landmark sits the familiar cliffside of Mount Hari to my right. It took but only a passage through a group of shrubs before we entered the familiar entrance to the home of the dual divines. Although a familiar sight should have brought comfort, the unease in the air was too thick to ignore. I could see beyond the stone pillars the hues of black and grey that stuck to the sides and the ground. What was the substance? Only but a mere moment need pass, for I noticed a nearby tree void of leaves and left black in soot to its branches and bark. The nearby tree had been torched to charcoal. The nervousness that continued crept inside of me. I took but a step before Amber called out. The others should stay behind, just in case. I can scope it out with only a few guards. It's no matter who, and not just for safety, but so none get in the way. Let us scan the area better, see what happened. These situations are what I was trained for. Then I will go too. Soma steps up, quickly shut down by the mercenary return. No. What? A grimace on his face showed obvious discontent. Kora needs her personal guards, in case they are still around. I will not take long. Amber steps ahead with only a few of my brigade guards by her side. We wait with only our nerves and angst to stew. We waited, and then waited more. Seconds quickly turned to minutes, of which drew on too long. Cannot tell if it had been 15, 20 or 40 minutes more. It all felt agonizingly too long. Or if they're not okay, Cameo begs, his hand clasping his spear tensely. But just as he spoke, we saw as the crew returned. Nothing of their faces spelled out any signs of relief. The silence of their walk hardly quelled only by the arm of the guards as their metal boots clanged against the stone steps in their descent. After a pause and sigh, she spoke. I am not sure where the dual divine have gone. There was no trace of dragons anywhere. The tone of her voice hinted at something more. And what else? You wouldn't want to see. What else? Amber motions to Soma with a worried glance to Kora, of whom stood far enough from earshot yet too close for comfort still. Soma left to her side, leading her away down the hill. Amber turned to speak to the rest of us. Whatever happened, I think the dual divine are no more. You cannot capture dragons. They are somehow gone nonetheless. The keeper of the cabins. She takes a second to clear her throat. The keeper was cut nearly in two. Made worse to see was his blood across the wall. Everything, all of it was burned. All of it. They showed no mercy. The roads here are no more than coals now. All the tapestries, all the history. All of it embers. I see to my left as some of the others bury their heads into their hands. They're just gone. We can't stay here. We don't know how anyone else fares, whether it was an attack or a horrific accident. We should return to Haven at once. Quickly we set forth down the slope to Soma and the others. On the return to Haven, Amber tells him too what she saw. I shuddered for what it meant. It would explain how the divine lost her touch with them. If I could even call her that. Divine? Witch? I guess either works. Not much was said as everyone festered within their own minds on the path toward Haven. If I'd thought the day could get any more unnatural, I'd be wrong as always. A congregation of regular yet varied creatures surrounding the guards and the gates to Havenhearth ahead. Some slouch over heavy bags and sacks, while mothers nearby clutch children to their hips. Yet many others looked to be fighters with a weapon at their belts, their armour plates or pieces slouched around their hands, unarmoured or left tied in ropes to their bags. All of them looking eagerly towards the very few allowed into the gates of Haven. And that's when I saw him, or so thought I did. A familiar creature led through the gates by several royal guards. The same creature had but brief interactions with Zemir, only recognisable by the painstakingly bulky axe hooked to his back. At least I could only assume to be Rashek, as the glimpse was mild before he turned out of view with several felines alongside him. The sight made only harder by the flock of creatures fumbling around the streets outside the walls. Beside me, I saw Kameo's gaze to the gates. The look about him said something different. Disbelief? Shock? Or something that froze him entirely. Before I could ask, I overhear a nearby conversation, as May of all people interjects a passerby on the purpose of the group ahead. He merely shrugs with his paws up to the air. What's happening here? Not sure. Don't even say clearly. Rixlian Hillsiders, Zemarians? I don't really fret of it either, as I'm leaving town for Rixlian myself. And farewell. Tal? Huh? Tal? I think that was Tal by the gates. What do you mean? I do not see her. I saw her just now, entering Haven. I'm sure of it. I must go find her. Oh, wait, Kameo. Mayo stutters as our friend trots off ahead of the group. Among all the uncertainty, I felt in myself that we should see the divine tree, as my concern from recent events made that seem the most important, if at least to tell her what has happened. Oh, we may need to split anyways. So my notions in relation to the Kameo run to Haven. As we have returned to the old Kora's name day, I would not be surprised they already retrieved Vodos from his cabin and preparing the ceremony. What about the dual divines? Soma frowns in return. I'm not sure yet, honestly. None of it is my call, but tradition must be followed first. There were never any protocols for disappearance of the dual divine. Kora steps up, clearly motioning towards the knowledge Amber and the others try to downplay around her. They would not leave Melentia without a fight. Whoever or whatever stands in their way, I will honour my name day as it should be. The rest can be discussed with my mother after, I am sure. As we are royal guards assigned to Kora, we must be there to honour and observe a ceremony, Geraint. So I am to go alone? Go where? It's then I realise I have not heavily vocalised the connections between the divine, the seeker, and the tree to the north. In between bits of conversations, I know I'd mentioned it. Yet I think the majority of the time it was chalked up to being Aswin or the gods or the dual divine themselves. Thinking on it now, I do not know how much the tree Kora knows and her connections with the world tree and the gods. In my head is still nothing but a mess. My silence to Soma's question, I hear Amber among the others. I have little care to watch a name day ceremony. All respect to Kora, but when you read of one, I feel there's little to see but wait for the new seeker's announcement. As it seems, there seems no more tasteful in this ceremony. I don't mind heading over the Unite, as long as Zane agrees. I feel the same. Zane places his paw to my shoulder. And besides, if it is so important to see the tree now and cannot wait, it begs important enough. Don't stray long night. Kora nods to me as the brigade splits. Most of the brigade leaves to accompany Kora. Zane and a few others join my side. With nothing to stand in our way, our small group makes a quick pass to the edge of Melentia's northern end. Yet all the while my heart pounded nervously. The tree, what was left of it, stood before my very eyes. I worked them in disbelief against the still air, thick with the smouldering smell of ash and fire that lingered potently. A deep crimson bled into the horizon, merging with the setting of the sun. After what felt too long staring disbelief, Zane and the others accompanied my slow walk to the ruins before us. All of it unreal. Near its base, I felt an energy still about the air, yet the glow of green no longer seen. Something was calling me. In the faintest of her voice, she yet lived as the woods trembled to the core of my bones. Luna night, Geraint, alas. I know now of the dual divines. It was everything I feared and worse, for they came for me too. A rush of souls flood me, near a dozen, all of them the same, no memory, all killed in a single night, always the same. Akin to a slaughter, a sacrifice surely. As wins forgiveness, details of their doom slipped, albeit vague as ever. Surrounded with stones, glistening in the sea of blue, memories of feathers, a sharp beak hovering over them in their last moments. I feel the power. I do not know how I could not before, but I do now. The conduits to the Moonshard, many of them now. I know for certainty now the two are related. Are you going to be okay? I do not know how, but I feel the smile of the divine, her voice uneasy. No, but I feel it now. I feel the pain. I think my end, finally near. It is bliss. I am glad you made it in time. Are the dead still here? Some of them, yes. But I can no longer see them, for Vatir is no longer a part of me. Have you seen Kali's spirit? No. Sadly, the planes of the dead do not work as easily or in the same manner as the living. For even Vesna's soul has yet to find me. Now I cannot help him when he finally finds his way. What about the Seeker? As I said, but he also has not passed. Not yet. What happened here? Who attacked you? I do not know who. No one I could recognize. Their armor was new. Dark metal with faces covered in helmets and no insignias of my recognition. They walked with but a single purpose. I feel the ones to attack my dual divines are the same ones to take my stone. I did not think they'd be able to find me so quick. I can feel it now. Neo's presence. The souls of Tavnor face a new era. Whenever your hands wash in the waters of the arcane, they never dry. Whatever the consequence may hold, I cannot fathom what the Moonshard itself can cause. You must find a Geraint, now, or her Thea be lost. Have faith. The source is of no matter. But the faith in of itself is night, whether it be in gods, in yourself, or your friends. I turn to Zane and the others, their faces grave with empathy as the voice of the energy ceases around us. Who was that? I don't think I have time to explain. A violent tremble throws my balance. Not only felt this time, but also heard the groans of Thea erupt from the mountains and beyond. Azalea nearby shrieks, concerned alongside the others, we gaze in horror to the skies. Light. A near-perfect replica of the one seen in Zemia lit the sky. A ray of orange beamed the clouds due southwest. As twixt it flashed miles ahead, it thinned and vanished with the tremors. What was that? The question of the century, my lady. Zane slowly repositions his stance after the tremor, dusting himself as if to rid the unease from his body. What else we can do? We need to head back for Haven where it's safe. I wasn't expecting a lot of that in that episode. Definitely a lot of drama happening. And what will happen now? The Divines are gone. The tree is in danger. We'll get right to find the Moonchild. We have to hope so, I think. And we'll see where we go from there in the next chapter. Chapter 7 will be sometime in April. And then that leaves us the final chapter, which is going to be in 2 parts. So, we still have more to look forward to with this, and I'm really looking forward to seeing where we go with this story, because I'm not that sure myself on some of this. But I'm looking forward to getting back to it. Coming up next weekend, it will probably be a new build of Infinite Space. The plan is to have it out then. Of course, sometimes things can go astray, so there might be a slight change to the schedule, but that's the plan right now as we go into April. And as always, before I go, I would say thank you to all my donors on Ko-fi and Patreon, especially my top patrons: Andy Peng, Aaron Fox, Bastian, Baker, Brian Hall, Gobers Visser, Dissonance, Exact, Grizz, Harvest Mouse Productions, Hidek Orwell, Evan King, Kartek, Matt Kenya, Marius Avantes, Lar Cuskerton, Greylock, Addy Bear, Volpus Need Coffee, Ra Amaterasu, Tiger Cub, Simuto, Spiderling, Rafu, and Omar. Thanks to those. And don't forget, you can go on to Steam and pick up Moonfire, a Seeker Saga for yourself. You can try out slightly different options in here and probably get to the end before I do. So I definitely recommend picking it up. But that is it for it from now. As I say, there'll be more from the story later in April. But for now, thanks for watching. Goodbye.